Gotta wait for the thunder. There it is. There's the thunder. All right, we got the thunder. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Stormwatch. For those that are live, hello right now. For those that are watching this recorded, hello from the past. Kimber is back with me today because Kimber's awesome and y'all loved Kimber. Unfortunately, Glenn is also back today, so we had to balance that by bringing in someone else to counteract that. So Daniel Grant is also here. He's on the data science team at Grey Noise, and we're talking something really, really cool today. So hey, how's everyone doing? How was your? Was it? I guess you're all U.S. So you all had extended weekend, right?
Yeah, solid 3-day weekend.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Happy to see that the new Glenn Bob rule that we can't be left alone in a rule is still in effect, even though I was out last week. So
yeah, we're actually gonna just keep adding people to counteract, just the negative thing, the derogatory for you anyway. And like yesterday was Juneteenth in the United States, and. I'm not pimping my newsletter, but I can actually send the link separately if you wanted it in the community Slack. There's an actual really great Springer who's not known for free all the time. They were doing free stuff at the early part of the pandemic. Released a really it's okay. I don't know how cool a 700-page book could actually be, but it's a 700-page book on the entire civilization history of slavery. I haven't read it all back to back. It's really compelling though, and it's actually written well. It's written for the average person, it seems. So it was a neat thing, and I actually perused some of it. I actually did a Juneteenth thing on Juneteenth. That was pretty cool.
Hell yeah!
So awesome. All right, well, we're going to dig into. We have a lot to cover today. So if you were expecting a 15-minute, do they still call them vlogs? Like I'm old, so like that we called them vlogs back. Are they vlogs? What is this? Webinar, webcast? I don't even know. Visual podcast. I have no idea. Vlog. I'm not going there. All right, let's get this going. So let's go to. Come on, let's do this. There we go. So I was just okay. Yes, yeah. Well, I know we talked about it last time. I have a memory. I'm old. I have COVID brain, but I am not that daft. I think that I need to mention something about the Grey Noise community Slack because we need to stand in solidarity with all of our siblings who are tried to protest what was going on at Reddit. Decided to quiesce a bunch of Reddit forums. The powers that be at Reddit have said, no, you will come back. They forced a lot of channels to be open. So the moderators had some fun with it. So I plan to equally have some fun with the Grey Noise community Slack since I can maybe sneak some powers in now that Supriya can't stop me. Oh, yeah. And so we are now, you can only post John Oliver related content in the Grey Noise community Slack. So this is an important thing. Only and not unlike Glenn, not naked posters of John Oliver. Glenn's got a subreddit that's doing some weird stuff. Let's not do that. We're just gonna post cool. If you can do cyber related topics of John Oliver, because I know John Oliver's done a couple of cyber related news reports. So
point of clarification,
please do that. Yeah,
Glenn does not own a subreddit that's doing weird things.
If you can get John Oliver to join the Grey Noise community Slack, Bob would be absolutely thrilled.
Oh my! Oh wow!
There would be handsome rewards for that. There would be.
I often joke internally about holding a bake sale to afford some things that for the data science team. I would hold a bake sale just to get some money to pay John Oliver to join us.
Wow, I learned something about you today, Bob.
Yeah,
big John Oliver fan.
huge John Oliver fan. Pretty much only listen to it with headphones on, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it is amazing for someone who is as profanity averse as I am. Between John Oliver and another podcast I listen to, it's amazing how much profanity enters my eardrums. This is really important to cover today. Yeah, so I'm now moving on from profanity, naked pictures of John Oliver to let's get stuff's real. So I'm Matt Lehman, who's also on the labs team, noticed something early this morning. Why we're all early birds today, I have no idea. People, lives, boundaries, no burnout, please. Anyway, there's yet another Fortinet thing. I'm not saying nothing about Fortinet. It's done. You can read this because basically there's a thing. You basically just send a Java binary blob at anything, no auth, no nothing, and it keels over. So or it gives you whatever you want. We have links to all this in the chat, and there's links there if you want to do them copying or try to copy and paste while we're doing it. We're on it. We're going to be poking at it. We will do our best to actually figure out if we can get a tag out for this, detector nut for this today. Anyone else got any commentary on this or just snark against Fortinet?
I think all I have for this is snark energy. Yeah, that's all I've got.
I mean, is it even? Yeah, Glenn. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Glenn.
It feels like, yeah, you can only keep kicking it so much. Like, it's just.
Yeah, I mean, like Fortinet is kind of you just say that and like people giggle now, so it's fine. Like, I guess we're done with having to have snark.
This is the Fortinac, I believe.
Yeah, Fortinac. Yeah. So like the security device has. Anyway, let's not go there. Kimber was desperate to talk about and like I'm fine talking about this today. I wasn't going to poke fun at Microsoft, given that we ourselves experienced the mini DDoS or mini DOS last week. But I also think it's funny that like MS DOS, and Outlook, whatever. So Kimber, take it away. What do people need to know about this DDoS attack against Outlook?
I think it was a big one. A lot of people experienced downtime from this. Outlook down. It was on the Twitter sphere. It was in the news. Microsoft had to come out with a big statement about it. They linked all of this stuff to Anonymous Sudan. I forget Microsoft's particular name for them, but basically the way that this group does DDoS, one of the things that they use is private proxy services, and then another one is like open proxy services.
Yep.
So that's actually something that we can see in Greynoise is some of the open proxy stuff that floats around. And
Yep.
while we don't like attribute that to anybody in particular, it's something that's just particularly interesting to me that we can like see in our data is people using open proxies to hop on the internet and do things. I think it's something that people don't exactly think about a lot is those proxy services that are floating around out there and all the stuff. We kind of focus on Tor, VPNs as the main like yikes in the world, but there's also these other sets that are floating around that we've had some customers ask about, and just like it's on my radar. And now with this attribution for the Microsoft stuff, I think it's even more on my radar, especially for things like a wide scale DDoS. So we can expect to see like more DDoSes happening, just with the, for lack of a better term, spicy political context that's in the world right now. They call it hacktivism.
And we are entering, or maybe have already entered, a very interesting contentious cycle for our presidential election, in the next year. So yeah, we can probably expect more of this. Although I got to tell you, like, Outlook email being down, that just means that everybody above 40 couldn't do work, right? Isn't that what that means? Because everyone else isn't probably using email for work anymore. Or am I wrong about that? I don't know.
I think it's okay if you say it, Bob.
Okay.
I think we might need a spice level for the internet. We tell.
Yeah.
Ooh.
We put up a bunch of peppers.
The one thing I don't know if people remember, it's awesome bringing up the open proxies, because the thing that I always I sidetrack this whenever I had a couple free moments back at my previous job. I don't actually look at this data here because I've looked at it there, but the amount of just nonstop scraping of hotel, airline, car rates from all of the sites with these open proxies by whatever services are doing that kind of aggregation and other things, just because they're trying to get around all the rate limits and things like that, and also anonymize their activity, is bonkers. So I'm not surprised that it's being used for this. And it is cool that like we do see all the garbage on the internet, and a lot of the garbage is hosting things, services, or either by default or per purpose or by accident, like things that can actually do that. So blocking those things at the network level in your organization, yes, I am. This isn't a sales thing, but we do good work. And if you block these IP addresses at the network level, you can prevent a lot of these bad things from happening to you. Cough, Microsoft. Cough. And any other hot takes about how Microsoft couldn't protect themselves for a couple of days from DDoS? Like the richest corporation in the world, some of the smartest people. Anyway, all right, we'll go to the next one. Glenn, you get to talk about Move It. What I will say is I have been tracking that Move It in particular because, it's a file transfer thing. Attackers like file transfer things. A bunch of people got owned. Glenn's going to talk about one of the situations. What I was tracking is like creative use of like the default possible meme for it, because obviously it's back to the song. I think of it from the Animal song, not the actual like IRL song. I have to give Packet Watch though kudos of all of the banners and all of the taking advantage of the particular vulnerability and the particular memeability of it. This is the best one. So I have no idea if their threat intelligence briefing was any good or not. I didn't actually go to it, but I did catch all of these images that various security orgs were using and news orgs, and this is by far the best one. So if you have one that beats this, let me know in the community Slack. Otherwise,
literally dropping
so
when I just
John
realized
Oliver,
what the joke is.
we need John Oliver move it creative image for Bob today.
Yeah,
what I'm hearing?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay.
So Glenn, do you have what did you want to tell everyone about this?
Yeah, I think are we 3 weeks into this, and we're kind of averaging a new CVE a week. So more just a reminder of this is still a thing. It's still a thing that's evolving as new POCs and researchers, like this happens all the time, where there's a big bad vuln, and then researchers go after it, trying to find it, and in that process of doing so, then they end up finding other issues. So third CVE came out last week. The list of victims is growing. There's been confirmation for some governments that were affected, but don't worry, because the threat actor is saying that they don't want the government data, and they deleted it all. So don't you worry, governments, don't come after us. They're just trying to get money out of businesses. So take that with a grain of salt, obviously. And yeah, so just if you have these types of products, nothing new here, but you've really got to stay on top of them. And with every new vuln comes a barrage behind it, really. So these are such sensitive appliances, because that's what people use to transfer sensitive information, to not use email, right? Or to not use fax or whatever antiquated technology that's not secure. So they're usually full of really juicy information for these businesses, and that's why they're high attacker value. However, when they go poorly, then they go poorly really quickly. So
I do think it's really interesting how we haven't really seen a change in the scanning activity for MoveIt itself. So we have a tag that's tracking like things that are scanning for MoveIt itself, but like pretty much just little blips of activity, like those aren't going up. So interesting.
I think, as we might have noted last time, I think it was for something else besides this, or maybe it was this, the things that, like, I think I mentioned, and I think others have mentioned it here before, like we are seeing fewer and fewer regular up to inventory scans, like basically looking for new devices out there for especially technology like this, which is, it's an if it's going to have good data, it's an organization that's probably been around for a while. They probably have a DNS name for the thing. It probably is on their enterprise IP space, which means once you do the inventory, you might not need to do another one for a while. And that's one reason why we have some new cool stuff coming down the road that I will get yelled at, because there's a product person on the call and I won't say it. But because Kimber did hurt me last time, so I don't want to hurt her again. No, she didn't hurt me. But to help identify some of this activity in the future as well too. So just because we're not seeing it in some places, some of these technologies don't lend themselves to continual re-upping of inventory scans for that.
Especially when it's an O day, right? And if that inventory is already amassed, or it's something that you can Google dork it, or use another service to just go after it instead of spreading your a loud noisy net. At least early on, it's not surprising. I would expect this over the following months to get more noisy, maybe not a lot more, just because people start getting lazy and have already picked like their actual targets. But
I would assume too that it's like once those threat actors kind of figure out like that this is a government-based software, then they kind of know what to enumerate at that point, and they know what areas they're focusing in and all of that. I think that's probably one of the reasons that it got popped, is there's a bunch of state agencies that use this thing, a bunch of financial agencies. So it's pretty high value.
Yeah.
We'll just see more of this to come, and I wonder if anyone is poking at all the various other popular file transfer things out there to see if maybe they're safe or not. Of course. It'd be cool. It'd be cool if some of the white hats out there would let us know if they have something come down the pike, so we can help protect people early too.
I feel like in the past couple of years, I've learned of new file transfer products from these exploits happening. Like I was like, I didn't know that was a company or a vendor.
Wait, Glenn, you're saying that these companies are hiring attackers to pwn their software, exploit companies for marketing purposes. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying there's a lot out there that we don't actually know because they're in their niche, like industry or whatever.
Right.
And
yeah.
It's like, how are we supposed to know to look for Move It stuff if like we don't even know it exists? So
yeah, exactly.
This is true.
Yeah.
I think we have some people in the education technology field like join our community Slack, and I am desperately waiting for them to tell us like what specialized network software they use, like for the grade book or whatever.
Yeah, which is a great plug. Like, our community Slack's open to anyone. We're in there. We chat. We take recommendations or tidbits or whatever. So please join.
Yeah.
And
your niche software.
Yeah. And Glenn is in charge of making, and one of his goals and objectives for the remainder of the year is he has to have like, I think it's 300 more research partnerships. So if you want Glenn to get paid next year, it'd be good if you gave Glenn some information on that. It'd be good.
Research partnership means Glenn has spoken to you once.
I'm fine with that. This is good. Speaking of things that don't get that people are going after that you wouldn't think they go after anymore, or that we would see or inventory scans for anymore. Yes, you're reading it right. We have to talk about Log4j again. And I'm not making this stuff up. You can actually see we have a resurgence in just the past couple of days of folks looking for open Log4j instances. I will only say, and I'll let everyone else have whatever commentary they like. One reason why this is happening is that there are organizations who because whatever reasons have to restore backups, have to deploy new things, and they either deploy them off of old images or they're restoring backups that were before the mitigations got installed or patches got in place. And they become available, whether it's internally or externally, and attackers know that, and it costs them nothing to go do this. And if they win one, they win one, and it's a big win sometimes. Or this has happened to, I know of 5 organizations directly it's happened to. Other folks might know of more. This is why we're seeing, I'm pointing because that's where it is. This is why it is, no, it's over there. Okay, that's why you're seeing, there you go, look at that works. That's why you're seeing what you see. Anybody have, we've beaten Log4j to death. So actually, Daniel might mention something cool about it when Daniel when I ever give Daniel a chance to talk. So you have to hold off commentary, Daniel. Either Glenn or Kimber, you want to interject anything?
I'm fully blaming the Verizon deburr for this.
They did that feature on Log4j. Yeah, Alex and team lazily just dropped a Log4j section. Just whatever. Nice job, Alex. Great job.
It was a really, really good. It was great. It was wonderful, and I am already seeing articles not necessarily. I'm thinking they were inspired by that. I saw something pop up on IT Pro or whatever about, various news agencies linking things back to Log4j, and I was like, where have I also heard about Log4j recently? And it was in that Verizon deburr. So, read up on it. Feel nostalgic with everyone about Log4j. Clearly, these people who are scanning also are feeling a little nostalgic, wondering what the environment's like in the Log4j, but also we're so exhausted.
It's such an evergreen. I know, Bob, you and I talked about this 2 years ago, but it was literally around the thought of, and you hit on it there, but I'm just gonna echo it, your backups, your restorations, your recoveries, all of those things that take you back to a previous point in time, quite likely will take you back to a vulnerable Log4j version if you're not careful. And that's why this will forever be evergreen, because so many organizations, clean or wipe or whatever on a certain interval. And now it's been long enough that you forget about it. It's now, while we're all scarred, we still forget about that one because we have to move on to other things. Yeah. So restoring that back up to, December of 20, whatever, or the base OS or whatever. And then suddenly you're back to this.
I'm making a face because I hate this. I just hate this. Go away.
I want something else to talk about. Yeah, who wants to talk about Log4j anymore?
Can you imagine being a poor little sysadmin and you get ransomware and the only backup that you can restore is Log4j vulnerable? I would cry. I think. And you get ransomware again. Like,
So what I need to do is I need to make little tears coming from the log, I guess, like for the next time, the next time this shows up. We used to catch, and maybe Alex and team still do catch some grief for the Verizon, like, so because I ran it for a couple of years. We used to catch grief that like it's great that you gave us a history of what goes on, but all you're doing is causing CISOs to spend money on last year's exploits, vulnerabilities, weaknesses that are out there. But I got to give credit. That's I hadn't thought it. So Kimber, this is why you're on, because you're brilliant. You have different angles on everything. I hadn't thought about the like DBIR providing inspiration to cyber criminals. And like so basically, I'm doing this. The DBIR caused the drop. It caused the spike in Log4j attempts. So good on Verizon for making the internet less safe.
But now you're giving inspiration, Bob. So like.
I am reinforcing what my former teammates wanted me to reinforce. I guess I don't know. It's just weird. But we're going to hear. Yeah. So, but we're going to hear more about this.
I think it's mostly just people curious based on the DVR, because they're not running actual exploits. They're running actual keyword exploit.
People are like, I don't believe this is true, so they just fire into.
Well, they'll figure it out one way or the other.
Maybe this is validation.
Oh yeah.
A 56% change in the traffic that we've been seeing over the last 3 days is like,
it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, I'm over it.
Well, man, we'll see, because if this thing goes like all the way hockey sticking like later next time, we'll be doing this next week too. I'll try to be brief on this one because I do want to give Daniel as much time as Daniel needs. We had a great internal conversation. So as I mentioned, Kimber is still in spirit part of the Grey Noise Labs team because Kimber is an amazing researcher. Kimber is also an amazing product manager and product lead. And Andrew Askins, another one of our amazing product project. And I use that, like, I'm using that word, like everyone uses the word amazing. I legit am using the word amazing. They're brilliant people. And Askins is great because he was looking, like, trying to figure stuff out because we use our product so we can help make our product better. Because if we feel pain, we want to make that pain go away for everybody else too. He wasn't feeling pain. He was curious. And he's like, hey, like, I noticed this, like, why are people going after this old Zixel? Actually, Kimber and I were. Is there a proper pronunciation? Did you ever get the proper pronunciation, Kimber?
I'm going with Zixel. I like that.
Okay. My pronunciation for Zixel is garbage. So I'm gonna say, like, one of the Zixel, sorry, whatever. He noticed that the Zixel spike was here. At the same time, there was like a spike over here, and was curious, like, why would someone go after that? And Kimber, do you want to say what you said? Because since you're here, I don't need to speak for you.
There's a vuln in the news, and when we see like a recent vuln come out, we often see these little echoes through like the past. I mean, the oldest one that we see on here, I think, is the one that's labeled router worm, and I think that's from either 2017 or 2016. It's really old, so it's like, why do you see this? And these new vulns come out. It was I am checking my notes here, a 9.8 out of 10. So it was a pretty high. I think Kevin Beaumont linked it to new Mirai variant of some kind. Zixels are pretty often targets of Mirai. There's just a lot of them out there, especially in the whole like world. Like, if you look at the United States, not a ton. If you look at the world, a lot. And that's what makes them so good for being used in DDoS attacks, bringing it back.
Oh, look at that, tying the front and back together. That's amazing.
Yeah, so they got a very recent CVE assigned, and getting added to a botnet.
And I wanted to give Kimber props today because I've been checking this ever since that Askins pointed this out. And sure enough, Kimber's assertion was spot on. I mean, it's almost never not spot on. So, like, I don't know why we'd even think to say it's spot on because that's just the default. And the router worm kicked in right after you said, like, so you didn't cause it because no one heard you, but because since I'm blaming everyone for causing exploits now, but like, so Kimber did not cause this one. It just happened to be that Kimber was spot on, and we're seeing a pretty marked increase in the attempts at Zixel worm, a router worm exploit activity out there at the same time. So again, and Kimber's point, perfect. These things become part of the attacker tool set. They can run whatever they want to on these things, and it's just terrible. So if you have one, or you have one, patch it, throw it out, get something different. Make your ISPs use a different vendor, make sure they patch stuff. Just really important, and just watch out for these things on the internet. And we have some more stuff coming down from our labs team in the year and later this year to help identify some of these things on the internet.
Yeah.
Really quickly, since you can go to the site, we got 3 tags last week. One is for Move It, one is for VMware ARIA operations for networks, another Fortinet thing, whatever. You can read all about the VMware one. Jacob / Howdy on our team did a great blog with Remy. So you can read in details like what this actually is, because I want to get to Daniel.
And if you don't think you're affected by the VMware ARIA one, like double check, because they keep changing names of things. So you might not realize that you actually do run this in your environment.
But all they have to do is look at the CPE database then, and everything will be perfect, right, Clint? I'm sorry, that was just mean. I'll stop. And then text embedding for fun and profit. Daniel has been doing some incredible work with language models, and I wanted to give Daniel, and I'm gonna stop my screen right now if I can do that. There we go. We'll let Daniel have the floor, or the screen, as it were, or the glowing rectangle, to talk about what he's been doing and what we're doing and our thoughts and all those kind of cool things.
Yeah, I'm going to share that back up. Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of stuff using things like large language models, which are the new hotness that everybody's trying to do stuff with. We're trying to do some very specific applications with them. And one of the tools that are one of the building blocks for it, we wanted to blog about so we could share that information for other people to use as well. So this is the blog we just put up, text embedding. So it's basically talking about what are these LLMs? What's a GPT model? What's a BERT model? Why do we care about them? How do they kind of work? And then some code so you could build your own. And the sort of impetus, the causing factor for this is we have a lot of HTTP data, which is like text data. You could read it. It's sort of weird. It's not following English syntax. So we thought, what if we just built our own model that we could do on commodity hardware? You don't need like 10 A100 GPUs to try to run this thing. You need like, one decent gaming GPU and you'd be fine. But build this so we could actually use that data and use that to do like basic machine learning tasks. And one of those is this thing we're calling SIFT. And you've probably seen Andrew tweet about it. It's these nebulous little like, hey, we're building something cool, and this is the output of it. And it doesn't give any context. So we're going to try to give some context about what that is now. It's a tool we're building right now for internal use that tries to take all the HTTP data we see every day or a couple of days, which is 1.5 to 2 million HTTP requests through our entire sensor network. So nobody's going to sift through that. I'm sorry, I had to do it. And then that ends up being maybe 100 to 200,000 like unique or distinct HTTP requests. And so that's still too big to work with. So what we did was take the information like we learned from this blog and build a language model for HTTP so we can compare our historical data against new data and get down to what are the sort of clusters of the 10 or 20 or 30 new things that we saw in the last day or two that we might want our analysts, our engineers to look over and see, like, is this something important? Do we need to write a tag for this? Can you get me started? Because the first part is just narrowing down all that information. And the second part is using some of these third-party LLMs, like the OpenAI ones, and actually try to build an analysis around it and actually get you started on a SQL or a Suricata rule. Maybe give it a ranking to see how good it is or how much of a threat it might be, so we can actually prioritize our work. So we're just going to show you a couple quick examples of that. There's a ton of these, but we'll just show a couple. And going back to the Log4j, we actually found this in SIFT. This was yesterday's SIFT report. It came out with the Log4j and the JNDI sort of string that always says there. You can see this one's not obfuscated, which a lot of the log4j stuff was, and it just has this like /exploit on there. So that leads me to believe this is just people, you know, trying to just like see if this works. Like, can I actually get log4j on any box without trying to like hide what they're doing or do anything too malicious, even though we don't like people trying to do this anyway. Let's see, and then we can go through all the sort of records. There's a lot of them. It's using a connect to try to get to something. You probably don't want that. Some of these descriptions that we get here are useful. Some of them are slightly wrong because it is trying to like do a text description of an HTTP payload. And we can also put out like SQL tags. So yeah, it's just trying to find this string in here along with this exploit string. So it's not generic, but that's something that can tag this specific set of things. So we have a bunch of stuff like that. I'll show a couple different files while we're at it, just to see, like, this was an interesting one because it looks like this person is trying to do a lot of like trying different passwords and usernames. And we can see through other examples they got caught by SIFT. They're just trying to like brute force or do a dictionary attack on a bunch of this whatever this web server is. Don't know what the web server is, but this is something that our analysts would start to look into. So we can do that. And then as a side effect of this, we can do a lot of this analysis and try to categorize almost everything that we've seen recently. So this one is trying to access a .m file. This one's trying to do shell command injection. So you can see it's actually trying to run shell commands. Trying to open up bash, doing a path traversal. And so it's picking these out and saying like which ones are probably more important for you. So that's been really powerful for our team internally. And that sort of explains a little bit what Andrew's been tweeting about, in case you've been wondering. So I think I can stop there.
Yeah, I think first I want to give before I have a couple questions. But I want to say thank you for, anyone that's watching in the security community. You helped make this. There's far better security content on the internet, freely available, stolen by all the various giant companies out there to train these models on. But because it's out there and because a good chunk of it actually is accurate, that's where we're getting the titles generated. That's where we're getting the severity estimations from. That's where it's creating it's more accurate than not. Like, yeah, I know Daniel did do the caveat because it is just kind of, it's a stochastic parrot. It's cyber parrot, I guess, in this case. But the reality is it's doing a really good job. Like, I've read through about 300 of these and maybe 10 are just slightly off and like a couple have been really off. But like the reality is it's really great. And it's because of the work that people have been doing in cyber for the past 20 years. It's also the same stuff that like I am going to do this. Like Microsoft is trying to make tons of money on, and a couple other ones are too. This is something that we're trying to use internally right now to help our researchers not have to sift through hundreds of thousands of things on a daily basis, because they should be able to eat and sleep sometimes anyway. Not Glenn, but everybody else should do that. So like I guess I have one question, and you guys, everyone else, please ask Daniel questions too. How hard was it to get output from from what you created with the BERT model? Obviously you designed that, so that was fairly straightforward. But like for talking to specifically like the OpenAI endpoints and getting actual real data back from it, like how hard was it to get something that was actually usable from that? Because like I don't know if anyone actually works with OpenAI stuff in that kind of capacity, but getting data back versus blobs of text seems to be something that is still a mystery to a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it's not necessarily as straightforward as you think it would be. We've had good luck to work on a couple of these other projects that some of them will be releasing kind of soon. Some of them just internal, about trying to use different prompting techniques to handle this and get the format in the right place and get it as error-free as possible. So there was a lot of trial and error, a lot of running up my OpenAI bill as we're experimenting. But we once you get the sort of right level of specificity, and tweak the language the way that you like it, it starts to produce the output more often than not that you like. And then one of the tricks we learned was to check it on the back end and see if it's in the right format you want, if it's producing like sensible things. Like if I ask it for a number from like out of 10, if it's giving me a number out of 10 and not just saying like, this is 11 billion. So that's been a definite learning experience, but we've got it tweaked in a nice place. There are some new things that are coming out that might help. I know OpenAI has released formulas where you can sort of define a little bit better about how you want to characterize different inputs and how you want outputs. So that might be another thing that we start getting down the road into. But yeah, it is a lot of trial and error in that.
Gotcha. Kimber, Glenn, go for it. Ask any questions if you have any.
No, I think the thing that like sticks out to me is like this AI is capitalizing on like pattern recognition and stuff, and it's just like the thing that all of our researchers' brains like naturally do is just like really, really good at pattern recognition. When I scroll through like the gray noise data and stuff pops out, it's like, oh, I recognize this, I recognize that, I recognize that. So it's like very cool to have that in a translatable way. Like I can tell you what's going on in my brain, but like it's cool to just have the computer do that for us.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things with that is it does give you some like superpowers that you didn't know that you needed when you're doing some of this. There was one example that I ran that there was Unicode encodings for Chinese characters, and it both decoded it to Chinese characters and then decoded it to English, or translated it to English. So it and used that in inference to say it's likely going after this type of server based on the payload name that was in Chinese characters. And I was like, all right,
that's cool.
That's probably taken me 3 days to do.
Yeah, it's so crazy because like if you do this enough and you stare at like those hex values enough in the packet, like you start to recognize headers and like all of that stuff. But when there's already a data corpus that's like trained on all of that, it's like sort of a shortcut of having this dictionary alongside you that like translates it all, which is exactly in my mind, like where I would love gray noise to function for people is like kind of this dictionary of like, okay, what the hell is that?
And I think I say this every week, but it's still like such an important tidbit for me. But like this data is also like the unadvertised. You know, the honeypots are out collecting data. This data is being collected like in an unadvertised way. So like when we're seeing something, you know, that is floating itself up through the noise, like pardon the pun, but even for us, like through cutting through our noise so that we can cut through your noise. You know, that's super cool. And to add that layer to like, you know, these unadvertised collectors, and then the noise gets to a certain point and it gets through the sift and like gets to a researcher, blah, blah, blah. Like those are the things like when it gives us the much better abilities to be able to find log4j's early on or find, you know, ODAs early on, because it's going to be more apparent in that data, and we can do this like, you know, while we're trying to sleep or eat, despite what Bob says that we deserve.
Yeah, that's definitely the hope, and to catch the next log4j, and as just an experiment with this, because we can tell it like what days we want to consider historical data, what days we want to consider recent data. We can do all sorts of fun stuff with it. But Andrew really loves running this. So once I got him set up, he was off. So he started doing like the day that that we first saw log4j, like before anybody knew what log4j was or what this exploit was, if it would pop up, and it popped up, and it was one of the first results. And I think, and he tweeted about this too, but I think the analysis was like slightly off, but it was like, okay, this is something we need to look into. Yeah. So hopefully, like this lets us just like while we're drinking our morning coffee, check the reports and see like, oh, is the next log4j here today?
Yeah. You mentioned that it is based on an HTTP language model. Is it constrained to that? Because obviously we see lots more than HTTP traffic in the honeypot fleet.
Yeah, for this current one, it is constrained to that, but the technique and technology is definitely not. And one of the things I'm working on in the background is trying to have this learn on just straight up hex data, and see, because it's the same patterns, it's just a limited vocabulary or limited characters set, alphabet. But trying to learn that, and some initial things, evaluations, looks like at least the HTTP or the text model, like the one in the blog, at least that would work out pretty well. I don't know about the analysis on just sending like raw hex data to like OpenAI. I'll test that out some too, but that'd be really interesting. But at least we could get it and then try to see what we can decode it into ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like some easy wins are like pop SMTP, like all of like the text. The internet still runs a lot on weird archaic text-based things, so lots of easy wins. That's the word "easy" in square quotes. But like, there's a lot of potential for this to do good. And one thing I wanted to also emphasize is like, I'm not a big fan when are these modern new things that are basically creating a new generation of models and tools every week or so. Actually, I didn't put it in here, but I'll link it out somewhere. Great history of what's happened since before, like just before and after OpenAI released ChatGPT to the world. The increase has been crazy, and there's all this talk about like, replacing jobs or whatever. What I love about what Daniel's put together and built and into here, this isn't replacing anyone's job. This is making people's jobs a lot faster and easier than it would have been before, to catch things that we would just not have been able to catch before, just because of volume and time. And so it's like, I always refer to I like to use data science in a bionic capacity, like, stronger, better, faster for all the humans that do this kind of work, and not replace those humans. And what you've built, Daniel, is not going to replace anybody. And matter of fact, it's going to give, I think, more people more jobs to do, because we're going to find more stuff and we have to deal with those things. And humans have to write the tags still for quite a while, detections for a while. It's going to be a long time before computers do that.
Yeah, I think it's just like the two big problems in detection engineering are like, you have to be able to surface the new stuff, and then you have to be able to know what it even is. So anything that helps do that faster is it's invaluable, I think. Yeah.
Cool. I'm excited. Like, I have been excited daily about this tool, and my boss has also been way more excited, because he actually tweets and buzzers when he shouldn't. He didn't listen to me this last time, and he actually has run it on most of our historical HTTP data. So now we have a database of things that I and Glenn and Kimber and Daniel and other people have to look through. So it's going to be keep it as busy for the rest of the year, I guess.
I feel like our boss is not like most bosses.
Very interactive, I would call it.
Yeah.
Daniel's like, hey, look at this thing I made. And then like 2 hours later, Andrew is just like ripping it apart, posting it on Twitter, like giving it the go, like, all right, cool.
Yeah, we just had a Friday afternoon meeting. He's like, all right, what do I need to do? Step me through it.
His laptop is melting because he's trying to run
I mean, the only thing stopping his progress is he actually has to re-authenticate to AWS every so often, so to make the thing work. Thankfully, hopefully he slept a little bit during this. All right, well, I'm going.
Exactly, I want testing everything.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to put the screen back up. Right, I'm back. So the last thing I just wanted to note, there's nothing. I'm not showing the heat map because there's nothing different in I mean, most of the top things are still the top things. A lot of folks still trying to catch Azure with its pants down for whatever reason. I don't think it's going to happen. Microsoft's been pretty good about patching all of the things and keeping them all patched in Azure, but just be it known that attackers are still trying to find one tiny little thing to sneak into there. What I will note that it has been 7 days. Glenn made me make this sign, like it auto updates at that URL. So Glenn made this sign.
It means we're due.
Like, that's the thing. Yeah, so spot on, Glenn. Like, so this means that we're in the window of we're gonna get another one, which means either for something that already exists, maybe 200 years old CVEs that they finally realized got home by somebody.
32 hours, I'm sure.
Oh, that's wait. Are you throwing money down on like the next 36 hours to be in a Kev release?
$1?
Yeah, dollars.
No, like I'll give you $1 if there's not.
That's how sure you are of your prediction. People should trust you for your thing. Like, people should like prepare their workforce for a Kev drop. Okay. All right. Well, Glenn's willing to put a whole US dollar on this. So that's
I'll put a whole internet kudo point on it dropping today.
Whoa.
I know.
Wow.
All right. This is like, yeah, okay. All right.
I mean, Tuesday is Monday in the US, so it is possible
Yeah,
that's just a
it's probably gonna
yeah.
be today. I was
Yeah.
just hedging better than Kimber, so.
Sigh.
So if you're watching, wait more than 24 hours, please.
Folks, keep an eye out on this. There is a cool. Okay, I think pretty much all charts, but pie charts are pretty cool. But there's a chart there that tracks like where on the histogram things are and how many there have been, and all that kind of. So you can dig into the Kev stuff in the notebook there. Just be aware of this because it does impact your teams. Whenever they do this, it is a scramble. You need to do that, and we try to do our best to get ahead of it when it comes out there. So if it's something that we will see, we will let you know about it, and hopefully it won't be something that's horrible, and hopefully you're already taking care of it. I'm going to disable my thing on there. Any parting words for everyone?
Wow.
Is that the longest one yet?
Yeah.
If you listened to the whole thing, thank you.
If you hung on for 45 minutes, you get an internet point.
Yeah.
And you've already got a John Oliver meme in the community Slack, Bob. So
Yes. Most importantly,
I will try to wield my power more responsibly next time.
Sweet. Well,
cool.
We will be back on our regularly scheduled Monday next week.
Cool. And Daniel, thanks for joining. Hopefully you won't mind if I ask you to join some more in the future.
Sure thing. It was great being here.
Yeah, it was awesome to hear that stuff.
Thank
All right, Kimber, great seeing you as well.
Time.
Cool. Kimber, great having you on as always. Thank you for being part of the crew.
Yep.
And take everybody. Keep watching Gray Noise so that you can. I still have no kitschy thing for Storm, so pretend I said something clever about Storm.
Storm.